My name's Haz. I'm a filmmaker, and this is Adam, who's a cinematographer as well as a filmmaker. And today we're going to be talking to you about how we've made short films and proof of concepts in order to lead into feature film development, and how we're using high-end visual effects to do it on such a low budget, yet keeping the visual quality as high as we can, which we all know is a big struggle because the budgets are getting lower, but the ambitions are getting bigger. So hopefully this talk will either inspire you and inform you on how we've done stuff. So just a little quick thing about myself. I didn't go to film school. I worked in visual effects as a visual effects artist. Worked in 3D, then moved into compositing, then became a VFX supervisor on feature films, television, commercials, anything with moving images that needed visual effects. And the point is, you know, that became my film school because I learned all I needed to know about filmmaking in terms of dealing with executives, dealing with the script, doing script breakdowns, being on set, learning how to work on set. All that came through the world of visual effects for me. So it's not just sitting in front of a computer and pushing pixels. Obviously, most VFX artists want to be filmmakers. In fact, if you talk to most people that work in visual effects, they have a filmmaker heart somewhere. So, and that was me. So with me, I used visual effects to then create high-end sci-fi proof of concepts. You probably noticed I called it proof of concepts and not short films. To me, all the stuff that I've done in the past and many of the stuff you see on the web today and stuff on Vimeo are essentially proof of concepts, because these are filmmakers that are trying to tell their story in such a short time of space with such high-end quality because they want to go and make bigger movies. And that's the same thing I did. So I made 3 movies: Project Kronos, Sync, and Iris. Project Kronos was the one that got me recognized. It was a fake documentary about space travel. And you see there in Variety, they announced I got the feature film deal. Today, I am making my first feature film. In fact, today I've taken a break from shooting and production to come here to talk to you guys, which is good because I need to get out of the studio anyway. And that I got to that stage because of my short film making and because of thinking outside the box and because of breaking convention, breaking the traditional way of making movies. And yeah, you can break the rules as long as it looks good. Okay, a little quick thing about what is the power of short films. So when I started out, I always saw short films as just things you submit to festivals and you win awards and so on, and then you move on bigger things. For me, I didn't really want to go the festival route. I did short films as a way to impress financiers and executives so that they could trust in me as a first-time filmmaker. Because remember, unless you made a feature film, you're always going to be considered as a first-time film director. So the power of these short films is executives only have 10 minutes to spend time with you. Any executive, whether it's television, whether it's feature film, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's in the UK, executives don't have a lot of time. They won't read your script. They'll look at the front page, they'll look at the synopsis, but they need something visual, especially if you're pitching a science fiction movie or anything what you call genre type films. You need something visual and something very tantalizing. And that's what those short films are. But the thing is, you're self-financing those short films. No one's giving you money to make those proof of concept short films or whatever you want to call them. You have to pocket that yourself. So I finance all my own short films, which means, working in the visual effects industry as an artist and working crazy hours, you got to make sure you spend your money, sensibly. So all of those short films I've done, like the one you just saw there, Sync, the trailer, they're done on such a micro budget. The trick is being smart on how you use your visual effects and how you combine shooting and visual effects together to tell your story and keep it on budget. It's extremely, extremely hard. So I'm going to show you an example now of a proof of concept that I did a few months ago, right? Start of the year. And this was an idea I had. I wrote, when Project Kronos came out, I was given all these film deals. So I was going through development phase, development hell, and I was given the opportunity to write scripts. But I don't want to just write scripts. I want to show people that I can make movies. I want to show people my vision. But most importantly, I want to instill confidence in the financiers, the production companies, and the studio that I am going to spend their money rightly. And you have to show. You can't tell, you have to show. And essentially, that's what I did with this proof of concept, which I'm going to show you. And it's through this proof of concept is how I got to make my film today.
said the father. Be our eyes where we cannot see, our ears where we cannot hear, our touch where we cannot feel. For at times the adventure is beyond us. Go, said the mother. Shine light where there is darkness. But beware the dangerous road.
So there you go. So that was the short proof concept, which we did in a few months, was it? About a month and a bit. So we had to work very quick because the financiers were really interested in the script. They loved it, but they were a bit like, can this guy pull it off? And what exactly are we, is this thing going to look like? And, if I was a really well-known director, they'll throw loads of development money and figure, yeah, fine, go and shoot something. But I had to go and finance this myself. So with this, I was able to instill confidence, secure the financing, but also as a filmmaker for me, I understood where to put my resources. You can see there's a lot of CGI in that proof of concept. In my actual feature, I'm actually doing very little CGI. Funny because I'm a VFX guy, but I'm not doing as much CGI. I'm doing stuff for real. I'm building stuff with real models because I realized through the proof of concept that CGI takes a while to render, and I don't want to sit around waiting for things to render. But of course, you can't escape CGI. You have to combine it smartly with stuff you shoot for real. And that's the stuff I want to talk to you about today. So I'm not going to get in too much detail on how we shot it, because Adam is going to talk about how we shot this. But I'm going to talk to you about how we're combining visual effects and live action smartly to get these sort of proof of concepts done quick and cheaply, but still look very high end. And also, you might have noticed it feels like a trailer. And there's a reason why it feels like a trailer. I mean, I could have gone and shot a scene from the script, to really show the story, but no. I went for a trailer because the people that you're pitching to are distributors, salespeople, financiers, executives, and they want to see what this film is going to look like as a marketable piece. And let's face it, filmmaking is a business. It's about selling your movie. Yes, there's the craft of telling the story, make sure you've got good characters and arcs and plots and so on, but essentially it's a product, so you have to treat it like a product. And salespeople love visual effects. Okay, so this is pretty much my workflow. This is what I do on every single project, whether it's small, whether it's a test, whether it's a proof of concept, whether it's a feature film. This is always my pre-production method. I'm a big advocate of Adobe, but it doesn't mean you have to use Adobe. You could use Google Docs, you can use whatever software you want. But the point is, I always create mood boards. I always create storyboards. I always create something visual, because you always got to keep showing people visual stuff. I use PDFs a lot, Acrobat. How many here actually make films? Okay, cool. Okay, good. And how many people here actually know about visual effects? Oh, okay, I'm in a good crowd. Okay, good. Okay, so I use PDF to package everything so that I can send a PDF to my executives. The big problem I find is when people, especially creatives like myself, would just send a 20 meg PDF to an executive to read. They're not going to read it. So always use PDF to compress your stuff. I cut rip-o-matic trailers. So, I mean, what you saw there is a proof of concept, but what I do is I cut trailers, like I'll rip stuff from other films, cut it, constantly show visual stuff while you're pitching your script, while I'm pitching for development. Like the other day, we changed something in the script on the film. And instead of just writing an email saying, hey, I want to change this because I want to have a planet over there, I actually showed it visually. You can make something that would usually take a week of meeting, you can cut it down to just an hour because you have something visual to show. Now, of course, not everyone can go ahead and do visual effects. But the point is, the tools are affordable, there's talent out there, and also the knowledge is out there for you can actually go and learn this stuff very easily. I didn't have any formal training on this stuff. I'm self-taught. So you guys can do that too. It's much easier now because you have YouTube with all those tutorials. So when I was talking about storyboards, now first off, I can't draw to save my life, so that's as far as I go for storyboarding. But who cares? This is not going off for like the Tate Modern or this is going to win awards. This is for me to communicate my framing and my ideas to my crew, to myself, and just to get out on paper. So don't be afraid to sketch stuff out. Don't be afraid to do little matchstick men just to show people what you're thinking. It's so important to convey your visuals in any form. You know, I also do collages, right? So, you know, we'll use Photoshop here, right? Yeah, so I'll just get loads of images from the web and collage something. Trust me, that's way better than sending a really long email explaining what you're trying to do. Okay, so one of the big questions I get is, how do I get my proof of concept looking so expensive and so high-end with spending so little money? First off, it's obviously good use of visual effects, but to be honest with you, it's not the visual effects that makes these proof of concept really high-end. It's the use of the locations. Locations so key. Now, I'm sure most of you can appreciate getting location costs money. In fact, anything in filmmaking costs money. You got to pay, right? Or you can pull some favors. So with the proof of concept, we shot this at the Birmingham University. And what me and Adam did was we did a tech recce, right? So we know what recce's are, right? So we got on a tech recce. We took tons of photographs. Then we'll then spend a week together and look at these photographs, and we mapped out our film. And we realized, you know, we're kind of stuck with this location. We don't have time to go somewhere else. We don't have any money to go somewhere else. And the university gave us a really good deal on using their location. So we built the film or the trailer around the use of the location. And so you can see here, you know, just looking at corridors, you know, machine servers, you know, little dials. You know, the whole film is set in Mission Control. So instead of building Mission Control, you know, having big screens, we went into a TV gallery and we changed that into our Mission Control. Other ideas, like, you know, this is a shot in the trailer as you saw. Now, this is a really cool shot, but if you really look at it, it's actually really cheaply done because the joystick is a gaming joystick. So what I did was I phoned up Pinewood and said, hey, can you guys build me a joystick? And they gave me a quote of something like $1,000 or $2,000 or something, which is rightly so because, you know, these guys have to get paid and build stuff. But I didn't have $2,000 for a joystick. So I went to eBay and bought a joystick for like 30 quid. And then in visual effects, I painted out the logo and kind of tweaked it a bit. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but in the back there, you got these little red lights. That's production value. No, really, what that is basically Adam was charging the batteries for the Blackmagic cameras. And I noticed through the lens that there was like a red flashing light. So I'm like, how many battery charges you got? And he said, oh, I've got quite a few. So we lined them up. So that's my point. You know, this is not your conventional way of making movies. Usually on a movie set, if you want lights in the back, you get the gaffer or you get someone responsible for lights to put those LEDs in. We didn't do that. We just made good use of what our location was, our lighting and kit. So think outside the box. There are no rules in filmmaking, really. Here's an example of using the location. So you can see up here, this is what the location looked like. It's a TV gallery, guys. But what I did was I created the visual effects beforehand and played the visual effects back on screen. The reason I did that is because, firstly, I'm a lazy compositor. I don't want to be tracking those screens or replacing those green screens with content. I wanted it all in camera so it feels real. So I did the visual effects beforehand and played back on the screen. And you can see at the bottom here, it looks pretty cool because we've got, yeah, Adam's done fantastic lighting, and in visual effects, we then extended all of that. So that's another example of use your location, use your visual effects, use a cinematographer, be your own production designer. Another example here, we didn't have green screens. So in the trailer you saw for Sync with the motorbike, obviously the environment is all CG. We didn't have green screens set up for so many reasons. We couldn't afford it. We didn't have time. We only had, what, a couple of hours to shoot this? We only had a couple of hours to shoot this. So, and it's underneath a car park. So we just looked for the most cleanest wall. Our guy was all black. We used rotoscope. So we rotoscoped it. It was way better than shooting green screen. And as you all know, if you put green screen, you get a lot of green spill and stuff like that. So I wanted to avoid that. Again, think outside the box. This is my studio, guys. It's just 2 laptops. I don't have a big, massive, heavy VFX workstation. I have Adobe Creative Cloud. If I need 3D, I go and rent out a license from Maya, because you can get it on subscription. It's very cost-effective to do this stuff. And it's in my bedroom. And it's on my editorial workflow. I mean, this is stuff that everyone has access to. Lastly, before I give it to Adam, CGI. Everyone freaks out about CGI. Even I freak out, because I think, God, there's going to be a lot of rendering. What we did on the proof of concept was we used something called kit bashing. You guys know what kit bashing is? kit bashing is awesome. You like this? It's like Lego. So I'll go to something like Turbo Squid, right? Turbo Squid is a website that sells assets and models, right? So I'll buy a model of a radar dish. I'll buy a model of some struts. I'll buy a model of an airplane, something that has stuff that I could play with. And then in CG, I'll break that and stitch it together to create my final look. So the cost of the models are like $5, $10, maybe $50. To rent a license of Maya for the month is like, I don't know, 100 quid. I got it on a 30-day trial because I only needed less than 30 days. I was able to put that together without extensive team or big visual effects budget. Now, of course, I know how to do this, but I'm not a 3D guy. So what I did was when I kit bashed everything, I then hired an artist for a day, just a one day to come in and just polish it up for me and render it out. So gone are the days where you need to go and hire a big facility to do heavy CGI. You know, if you know what you want, which is very important, your CGI can be very, very cost effective to do. How are we doing for time? Just checking on time. Okay. Lastly, production. So yes, I'm an artist, but when you're a filmmaker, you're not just an artist. You're an artist, you're a producer, you're a production designer. And the big thing that I've learned over my career as a VFX producer is budgeting and scheduling. You have to instill that same level of strictness in your filmmaking, whether it's a short film or proof of concept. So organization is super key. So it's not just about having the best cameras, not just about having the best visual effects or CGI or visuals. It's about organization, because the crappier you are at organization, it will show. And trust me, I've done it on my past projects. So this proof of concept, we're able to deliver within a month because we were so militarily organized. I'm just using Google Docs. That's all I'm using. Just Google Docs. Schedule. Keep it simple. Don't do any complicated scheduling with funky colors or anything like that. Keep it very simple. Here, I was able to map the schedule out with Adam, so we knew what blocks we were shooting. Share this out to everyone. Everyone is literally reading from the same page. Trust me, the more organized you are, the more people will want to do stuff for you. I mean, I was blessed to have people to help me out on this film for next to nothing. Some people donate their time because I got my shit together. And you can do that just by, you know, just Google, spreadsheet, just keep it organized. Also, keep a cost, you know, keep a tally on cost as well, because remember I said I was self-financing this, so every single penny was accounted for. Now imagine if I had funding from the BFI or whoever was funding me. I probably wouldn't be as strict on the money as I would, because I'll probably have a producer for that. But because it was my money coming out of my pocket, every single penny had to be accounted for. And I think it's a very, very good exercise for a filmmaker to have. I mean, I meet a lot of filmmakers go, oh, I'm not a producer. I'm not going to deal with that numbers stuff. Oh, I'm a creative guy. Bollocks. You need to have that in your head. Because today, I'm making my feature film. I don't need to do that, but I have that at the back of my head. So when I'm shooting and I'm going overtime, I know that there's going to be overtime costs. So I prioritize my shots. So this is very, very important. I advise anyone that's doing short film, proof of concept tests, or even if you run your own studio and you're doing pitch material, which we all know no one pays the studio to do pitches anymore, have that mentality. That really helps. It helped me in a way, that's for sure. Lastly, visual effects. So again, I use Google Docs to do the visual effects management, but I also use other tools out there. There's loads. There's Shotgun. There's F-Track. You know, you can use Google Docs. There's something called NIM now. There's loads out there. They're just tools, and without belittling any of them, they're just a glorified spreadsheet. That's all it is. So how we did it here was I had a lot of people around the world helping me out on the visual effects, as well as me doing the visual effects. So we needed a way to make sure that we were tracking, to make sure people were using the right assets, people were getting the footage right, so that Adam can look at dailies when he wants to review to make sure we're not motion blurring his shots, you know, those sort of things. So there you go, there's the thumbnails. And this is all on the cloud. And here's another thing. The whole cloud thing is really cool because, first off, I can be anywhere in the world and work on this, but my artist can be anywhere in the world. I remember 10 years ago, I was stuck with just the artist or the team I had access to. Today, I can get the best matte painter I want if this person's living in Colombia or this person's over in New Zealand. Location doesn't matter anymore. It's all on the cloud. So make good use of that. And it will change the way you work as a producer as well, because you have to learn to accommodate for time differences. You know, obviously the artist in Colombia is going to wake up at a certain hour compared to you. So make sure you have your material ready, your notes ready, and so on. It's a work in practice. Lastly, and really lastly, before I go to Adam, as a filmmaker, whether you're a director, producer, a lead artist, a visual effects supervisor, Keep your notes concise. I was able to go through 10 shots a week because I was kept my notes very concise. Don't write long emails saying, oh, on the top part of the pixel, change this. Use something like this. You know, you don't have to use F-Trait. You can use Whipster. You can use Sketch. There's loads of free tools out there. Annotate. Annotate it. Highlight the areas you want to change, and keep your notes very short and simple. You'll find that the team working with you will be able to give you much more for your money. And now I'm going to hand it over to Adam, who's going to talk about some much more fun stuff.
Thank you, Haz. Right, before I talk about shooting the actual film, what I want to do is explain what I've learned by working with Haz. Now, I've worked on short films and, people banding together to make something out of nothing. But then I've seen Haz go from these short films to talking with studios to meeting studios in LA. I was like, okay, what's made this happen to Haz? Why Haz? And when I started working with him, it became apparent very quickly. So I think it'd be very beneficial if I share some of those things that I've learned about getting these projects past the line and getting them in front of the right people. I think, as you can tell from listening to Haz, number one is energy and enthusiasm and belief in your idea. So I'd meet with Haz, and he would, no matter what the idea was, whether it's good or bad, he absolutely loves it. And he will create different drafts of that script and let the story evolve. And he won't stop for one moment to let any doubt creep into his mind. Is this a good idea? Is it not? If any of that creeps in, it just moves on and it evolves. Like the idea with Sync was a data courier set in the future, and it's a droid that transports data across the country. Originally, the idea was skateboard hackers moving data from place to place. But we'd meet every week, and the story would evolve, and he would just constantly be working at that story until it reached the final destination of what the story became. But the main thing was the relentless forward momentum that Haz had. And with that, I noticed the way that Haz works is he surrounds himself in the world of his film. As you see, there's a little glimpse of Haz's room there, is always imagery surrounding Haz along with his notes. So he immerses himself in the world. So his headspace, he'll go into the room, write his film, and he's completely consumed by the world of his film. And this is massively helpful because it all starts coming out. And in conversations, the first point I want to get to is the clarity of your vision. So what I noticed working with Haz is there's a lot of artwork. As he mentioned before, there's mood boards, storyboards, ripomatics, all of this stuff. As he's showing it to me, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I can see exactly what it is that you want to do, how you want it to look, how you want it to feel, take a bit of music, all of this kind of stuff. So for me and my job, I know exactly where he's coming from, so there's no crossed wires when we get to the set. We know exactly what we're going to do. So the next thing after that would be test shooting. It would be going out on location with the camera, and these days you can just use the camera that you're going to film the film on, and doing test shoots. Find the angles that you want. What are the variables? There's daylight coming in here that we can't control. There's fluorescent lights over here, that we have to work with. So completely scope out your location and know what you're going to do. So on the day of the shoot, there's no surprises and you can work quickly. So with that in mind, I'm just going to play you a video quickly just to demonstrate some of this stuff. Right, so I'll start and stop this video as I play it. So these are some of the mood boards that Haz put together as he's brainstorming ideas of how does he want this. Actually, Haz, should we play the trailer? Let me play the trailer before, so you know what the film looked like in the end. Let's play the trailer for the film.
I need you to tell me everything you know about the sinks. The routes, their drop points. We need to know everything.
will find you.
Okay, so that's how it turned out in the end. So let me show you this video, which has got... So here's brainstorming what the sync will look like. So these are the kind of mood boards that Haz would hand over to me. And I'm just thinking, how the hell are we going to do this? So again, he emails these PDFs over to me, takes images from other films, grades them to give them a different look so it suits more how he wants the film to look. So we've got the FBI control room that you saw there in the trailer. The SWAT team that you saw in the car park. These are all just from other movies. And then here, this was, what was this, Haz? SketchUp. Google SketchUp. So this was a very quick way of creating the environment. So we went to the car park location, took a few quick measurements and just done a very rough 3D sketch of the space that we have. So this was really used for positioning. So where are we going to put everyone? Where can we put the camera? And using tools like this, it just really helped. But the main help is the storyboarding. So once we've been to the locations and we take a lot of stills, we've done the storyboarding after that. So a lot of the times the storyboards are from stills that we've taken. So you see here, exact copies of from the storyboard. And if you see in that shot there, this is where I think this is a really great use of visual effects on Haz's part. If I just back up a bit. So that's a storyboarded image. That's how it looked straight out of the camera. And I didn't even know Haz was going to do this. If you look in the background, it looks like we're in a skyscraper over some huge, like New York or somewhere like that. Again, it was just those little details in visual effects. Sometimes it doesn't have to be spectacular. It's just, you know, comping out those windows and putting in a cityscape in the background just lifts that production value. And, you know, it's very simple to do. It's just stock footage that you can get off the internet, and you just composite that in the background. So those little touches, things like that, has just really impressed me. It's like, it's amazing the way you could lift the production value. So again, back to the SketchUp. And this is rushes from the film, ungraded, graded. Again, this is footage straight out of the camera. So you just see how closely the film ended up from how we planned it to how it actually turned out. So this is some of the test shooting. So this is getting familiar with the camera. So we just had the Blackmagic pocket camera. I owned a camera. It's such a cheap camera, but you know, we live in a day and age now where you shoot the movie on this thing. And we did. So we done test shots with the pocket camera. We got all the blocking. And then you go back, grade that image, see how it reacts to the lights that are in the room, and you're getting a real idea for how the film's going to look before you shoot it. Do a few test grades. You know, we have to work with the lights that are in there. We can't really do anything else. Play around with different looks. And then on the day, when everyone's there, so we end up very close to our pre-planned image. So this is something where ideas change in post. So Haz had the idea of the sync on the motorbike rushing down the road, and I was like, all right, let's do it for real, let's do it for real. Let's hang cameras out windows of the car. I was like really excited to do that kind of thing. So we done a few tests, just hanging the camera out the window of the car. So this is how we thought we were going to film it. But then there's a problem. When the helmet came in, when the costume designer made the helmet, it was completely black, the visor, and the guy could just about see through it. So he can't wear this thing and ride the motorbike. So we're like, okay, we're going to put a 3D composite a 3D helmet over the top. He's like, no, it's too difficult. So this is where you have to adapt and change. So in the end, we done this. Just had the bike in a car park, some LED battery lights, doing that to get as if the street lights are going past. And this is the end result. So ends up with more of like a comic book feel. Okay, so that covers the visualization of the film. So I just want to go back to the presentation. Where's the presentation? Is it in that folder? I think I've closed it by mistake. Oh, it's a PDF. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say with all of that is that as much as you can plan in pre-production, what we found is doing all of that work beforehand, it meant that when we arrived on set, the camera's going there, they're going to stand there, it's going to be a 35mm lens, people are going to walk across the screen, and everything was planned out. So we just done it. So there was no, trying to figure things out on the day. Everything was figured out beforehand. So we found every day went really smoothly, and it was all because of Haz's pre-planning. And some days, like the car park shoots, I think we'd done about 40 different setups. But because it was all planned out, we actually finished early that day, and that was the most daunting day. But every shot was completely mapped out. So I'd say that was there are different styles of filmmaking, obviously, for different films, but we found for this particular film, it was really helpful to absolutely plan everything to the letter beforehand. Right, the other thing I took away from making Sync and from the other projects that I've worked on with Haz is the strength of your relationships. Now, filmmaking is obviously a group thing. It's not like a solo thing. If you're a dance music DJ, you can make a track in your bedroom. You can't do that with filmmaking. So it's all about relationships, networking, and those kind of things. So going back to the mood boards and the pre-visualization of the film, this is massively helpful in the early stages of the film when you meet people. You meet them, you show them the mood boards, you tell them about the film, you show them the Rippomatic trailer, and hopefully, if it's the kind of film that they like, they're going to get really excited as well. And that's what we found. We were lucky enough to find a lot of people who like this kind of sci-fi, anime, kind of action-type film. We found those people, and they were really excited to come on board. So, a lot of the time, and I've been involved in these kind of things where you're trying to recruit people and you're saying, it'll be good for you if you do it, and this and that, and you're trying to say what's in it for them. Rather than saying what's in it for them, just demonstrate your passion for the project and your excitement and what it is you're going to do and how awesome it's going to be. And hopefully if it aligns with what they want to do, then everyone's on board and everyone's excited and things happen quicker. So that was a big take-home for me. And another thing Haz is really good at is being sincerely having a lot of gratitude towards all the people he worked with. Now, I've worked on things before, and you tell me if this has ever happened to you. You've helped someone out, they want to make a short film, so you go and help them out. You go on the set, you finish at 4 o'clock in the morning, you go home, you never hear from them again. I mean, you've ever had stuff like that? Because I know I have. And, it's a bit disheartening, but so sincere gratitude when working with everyone, keeping them involved in every step of post-production, even though, their job's done, they were just the costume designer or something like that. It's keeping them in the loop, personally phoning them, personally sending them emails, like group email, it's just, you don't really feel like you're being contacted themselves. So take the time to really thank everyone one at a time and keep them in the loop and keep the contact there. And then, as what's happened is we've all got back together and worked on other things in the future. So that was another take-home that I had. So now, getting a bit more technical, is what was really useful with making Sync was knowing the camera. Okay, so what have we got? We've got a little Blackmagic. We've got the Blackmagic camera. So we've got the pocket camera and we've got the production camera. So it's knowing what they're good at and the limitations of the camera. So what we found is the Blackmagic Pocket, it was fine for most of the shoot, but then there would be a few instances where Haz specifically wanted things like handheld, whip pans, camera flashes to simulate the gunfire. With the rolling shutter of the pocket camera, it's not going to work. So we've done some tests. It's not looking too great. So this is where, you know, let's use the production camera with the global sensor, and all of those problems go away. But then you realise, okay, well, this one is not actually as sensitive to light, and it's quite dark in there. So it's just, you know, doing all your tests, finding out all these things beforehand, so you know what sensor, what camera is going to shoot. Obviously, you just use what you've got. But if you have got a choice, and you can choose between a few cameras, find the one that's going to suit you best on that particular occasion. And again, you know, it's doing test shoots and test grades that we found out. So in that underground car park and all of those fluorescent lights, I found the optimum white balance to shoot it on, to get the nice look afterwards. Rather than trying to figure that out on the day, I know that, you know, all these ugly green lights, I've kind of got a way that I'm going to combat that, and I've got it all planned so I don't have to figure that stuff out on the day. So that leads me to my next point, which is we live in the day and age where the technology is out there. Like I said, Blackmagic pocket camera, what, 600 quid? You can just buy that. So I had one of those with a speed booster on so I could use normal lenses, and that was it. We shot the whole movie on that. At the end of the day, it's the film. No one really cares what camera you shot it on. So don't focus on the technology, because I've been falling into this trap as well. I obsess about, you know, look behind, there's just all the toys out there, and it's very exciting when all this new stuff's coming out. But what I found working with Has and actually getting something done and getting it out there, and this has actually been seen by Sony and by Fox and Universal and stuff like that, none of this stuff really matters. It's the idea, it's your vision, it's your voice, and it's the script. In pre-production and the whole making of this film, this is where all our time went. So I'm here to work on camera, but we're meeting every week, and we're just talking about the story, the characters, the script. This is the main bulk of our conversation. So yeah. Put the.
Because what Adam is saying is really good, but I think as he's saying it, which is very valuable stuff, you guys should actually see also what it was like on set, because that will back everything what Adam is saying. Let's have a look. Load this one up. Yeah. All right. Here we go.
Sound off of that one. So as you can see, real low budget stuff. You know, the plastic pipe for the dolly track. You know, we really didn't have much at all with this film. It was scrambling together bits of kit where we could. Some days we had quite a few bits of lighting. Some days we only had a few LED panel lights. So it was knowing what we're going to have on what day and what can we do with that. And yeah, that was the way we made Sync, basically. Has anything else you want to?
Well, I mean, just to back up what Adam's been saying about it, really is. I mean, you can see on the behind the scenes. You know, first off, we had someone record behind the scenes without us knowing, because we don't want to be posers. But yeah, this actually helps having behind the scenes, because you can assess the way you work. But also, this is all goldmine stuff when you're doing your marketing PR, which is what I'm going to jump on after this. Actually, is, you know, once you made your movie, you got to get it out there, and it's not just the movie that's going to help draw your audience. You know, the stuff that Adam's talking about in terms of like how he's using the cameras, you know, the low budget constraints, thinking smartly of your location, relationships with people, all the stuff that Adam's saying, it's all visible in behind the scenes. It's stuff, you know, we both share the same thing, like show rather than tell. You know, and it's the same thing when you're making movies. If you could show something rather than have someone speak it or have a character talk it, it's way more better. So, yeah, and also we shot all of that on a Blackmagic camera as well, so big props to Blackmagic out there. But, you know, it just shows you don't need to shoot on the Alexa or Sony A55 or Red. You know, we had access to pocket cams, we had access to production cameras, very affordable. We worked around their constraints, because every camera obviously has constraints, whether it's low noise issue. But yeah, you know, we just went out and made a movie. That's essentially the end take of this. Also, after this talk, I really encourage you guys to really ask some questions. We're going to be around for Q&A. So, you know, any questions you have on how we shot it, feel free to ask. So, yeah.
I would add to that it's at events and days like today where you meet people and you can collaborate and make the film happen. Look at this scene here where you've got all these guys with the guns and stuff like that and the sync outfit. That came from Has being at events such as this. For example, the sync outfit. You're at an event just like this, and I think someone else who was in the crowd was a photographer. And his sister is interested in costume design. So then, you introduced him to the sister. She made the sync outfit. So you never know who you're talking to. And it's just, again, at this stage where you're trying to band together and make something, it's all about relationships. You never know who knows who and the contacts they have. And that's another thing I've noticed is sometimes you meet people and they're very protective and quiet about their film. They don't want to let their masterpiece idea anyone copy it. And then you meet people like Has, I guess, where he screams it from the rooftop, I want to do this, I want to do this, I'm going to do that, and it's going to be awesome, it's going to be great. And the more people you tell, the more comes back to you. So what we found is we'd mention the film to someone, and then a month later, I met this person the other day, and I thought of the film that you guys are making. He actually does this and that. So I find talking about it and telling absolutely everyone about the film that you're going to make, it really helps, getting the word out there. And also, another thing that, I don't know if you find this, Has, but in the sort of idea stage and the planning stage, as much as you talk about the film, rather than lock yourself in a room and write it, it's kind of, that was where the film was starting to come alive. It was in the coffee shops and when you meet people, tell me about your film. Well, as you start explaining the film, you get like a new idea come to your mind, and you quickly write that down. And it's through the conversations is where the idea of sync, like I said, evolved from hackers on skateboards to a robot on a motorcycle. So that's another thing where I can sort of see different styles in the way people approach things. And I would say, be more like this, be more vocal. Yeah, be more vocal and passionate about your project, and just tell the world, because you never know who's out there who could help you. This guy, you never know.
Yeah, and on that note, in fact, it's a really good note, Adam, because now I'm going to talk about marketing. So we've covered pretty much, I mean, you guys should be able to go and make a film after this, hopefully, with visual effects. Okay, so let's go down here. Okay, so my big thing also is once you made a movie, get it out there, right? Films are made for people to be seen, right? Obviously. But I meet loads of filmmakers every year. I go to Sundance, I go to Raindance, I go to every festival there is because I like to watch movies. And many of them make movies and they just submit it to the festival and no one ever sees them. Or they make a movie and they just have it on a YouTube channel hoping for the best. That isn't going to work. The only reason I was able to get discovered by Hollywood agents in Hollywood was because I shouted about my movie. Now, let me make this very clear. Shouting about your movie is not the same as spamming, okay? You don't want to spam people your movie because that would then give a really bad name. So what we did was we knew we were making a sci-fi film. We knew it was about robots. We knew it had a cyberpunk element. And at the time we were making the movie, there's a lot of things about cyber terrorism, computer hacking. So we targeted sites like, and the Sony hack. So we targeted sites that would cover sci-fi. So things like Mighty Mega, which is a really well-known website. Things like firstshowing.net, the Hollywood Reporter, the GeekNet, Geek Tyrant, IO9. Make a few selection of these people, and then once you get on the radar of those big sites, other smaller sites will then follow and share it. That's the best way you do it. I mean, when I made my first animated short, I was very naive. I just went and blasted every single site. I didn't get hardly any hits. Both Project Kronos and Sync got Vimeo staff pick. And the reason it got Vimeo staff pick is because, from what I've been told, is not only is it very high production value, it touches on topics of today. Like Project Kronos was about space exploration, and Gravity came out that year. Everyone wanted space movies, hence I got my Hollywood deal. Sync, same thing. When I made Sync and I went over to LA to pitch it, that particular week, Sony was hacked. We've all heard about the whole hacking with Sony, right? Okay. So Sony was hacked. So can you imagine me walking into the Sony Pictures head office and pitching a film about computer hacking, but it worked because it was relevant, it was topical, and the film was about the solution of computer hacking, not the problem. And that's quite an important thing to think about when you're writing films and creating high concept films. Short of the week. So, I mean, what I really want you guys to take away at the end of this is the fact that go out and make your movie. Don't let anyone stop you. Be realistic on what you want to make. I knew I can make this sort of movie because I had talented cinematographers like Adam. I had, good costume designers. Use your resources that you have. Now, you may not have access to visual effects. Fine. It doesn't mean you have to put CG in your film. Like I told you, my current feature film is very minimal on CG because I know what's required to do CG. I'd rather shoot it for real. You may have access to a great coffee shop. Make something, but just go out and make it. I mean, look, I'm a big fan of just shooting stuff on the iPhone. I mean, this stuff here can shoot amazing high-speed photography. There's your filmmaking tool. You don't have to go out to Arri and rent out an Alexa. Shoot stuff, tell stories. Visual effects knowledge is available now. You don't need to go to an expensive university to learn visual effects if you want to. Just go onto YouTube. If you're stuck on how to do keying, Google it. It's out there. It's all on you guys that you go out and make your movie. So essentially that's it. So now Q&A.